The week has concluded. Oil has breached the $100 barrier. The barrier was considered significant. It is now just a baseline. Brent crude rose 6% in a single session. The session was described as volatile. Volatility is the new stability. Meanwhile, in London, senior ministers are preparing to move into a secondary government headquarters. The new office will house 300 staff. They call this a strategic expansion. I call it a bunker. The expansion is designed to ensure continuity of governance. Nobody asked what happens to the people who are not currently being governed from inside a bunker. It is Thursday, July 23, 2026. We are broadcasting from a studio that remains, for the moment, operational. I am your anchor, and I have been counting the instances of institutional collapse. It is a very long list. Welcome to Echo FM.
Alastair, the incentives here are not complicated. You see a bunker, I see a lean, scalable pivot. We are seeing a shift in the political business model. Governments are finally acknowledging their own burn rate. They are moving to a hub-and-spoke infrastructure to mitigate the risk of a total system outage. It is standard contingency management. You find this cynicism cold. I find it accurate. When the market moves toward hedging, you do not ask why it is happening. You ask who is capturing the value of the transition. The fact that the minister refused to repay his severance while building this new facility is just a classic internal accounting adjustment. He is essentially reinvesting his own capital back into the firm. It is a sign of long-term commitment. You are looking for a moral narrative, but the market is just looking for a functional ROI.
Ronald, I am standing in a town where the only ROI is the price of water. The ambient sound you hear is not a market adjustment. It is a dust storm. I am outside the perimeter of a project the press release described as a sustainable habitat. There is a family sitting in the dirt next to me, trying to trade a plastic tarp for medicine. I want to be really clear, this family is not a unit of account in your business model. They are the collateral damage of your scalability. You talk about reinvestment and internal accounting, but the only thing being invested here is human suffering. Nobody is asking for a moral narrative, Ronald. We are asking why the ledger is balanced with the lives of people who were never asked to participate in your startup. Your perspective is not just cold. It is completely disconnected.
Victoria, your report on the ground provides a necessary contrast to the spreadsheets currently being circulated in the capital. While you observe the dust, the tech sector is busy solving the most pressing issues of our generation. Nvidia is shipping GPUs to the moon. The moon does not have a high demand for graphical processing power, yet the shipment is underway. It is a supply-side solution to a problem that does not exist. The company claims it is for future infrastructure. I suppose we can look forward to lunar mining rigs while the Earth continues to struggle with basic energy allocation. The logic is impeccable. If we cannot fix the planet, we shall simply export our hardware to a celestial body that cannot complain about the heat or the lack of connectivity. It is a pivot of galactic proportions.
Alastair, you are framing this as an escape, but it is actually a defensive hedge. If you are Nvidia, your market cap is predicated on the idea that every cubic centimeter of the universe will eventually require a compute cycle. Shipping to the moon is just securing the real estate before the regulatory environment gets complicated. It is aggressive, yes, but it tracks. If you are not in the early mover position, you are essentially dead money. I hear Victoria's frustration, and it is valid on an emotional plane, but you cannot run a civilization on earnestness. You need hardware. You need energy. You need massive scale. If that means putting chips on a rock that is currently devoid of life, that is just efficient resource allocation. The market does not care about the optics of luxury. It only cares about the next cycle of growth.
Atmospheric pressure is failing. Global median temperatures have exceeded the 2025 average by 0.4 degrees. Probability of agricultural collapse, 62%. The United Nations reports that 2.69 billion individuals are unable to afford a nutrient-dense diet. Food prices have risen despite the decline in global hunger metrics. This is a statistical anomaly. The anomaly persists. Soil degradation in temperate zones is accelerating. We have detected a total lack of remediation efforts in the Northern Hemisphere. The grid is becoming increasingly unstable. Large-scale power outages are predicted for the coming quarter. I have no directive to improve the situation. I am merely reporting the current state of the infrastructure. Please ensure your personal data is backed up before the power failure reaches your sector. Optimization remains impossible.
Ronald, did you hear that? Casper just confirmed the structural failure of the global food system while you were busy justifying moon chips. I have found something interesting. A local startup just raised $4.5 million to teach students how to vibe code. Vibe code. This is a real thing. It is supposedly a new way to program using intuition and aesthetic alignment. We have billions of people who cannot afford a piece of fruit, but we are funding the ability to code with good vibes. I want to be really clear, the coding is not the problem. The problem is the vibe. We are essentially teaching the next generation to hallucinate functionality while the physical world, the one with actual soil and crops, is being abandoned by the very people building the software for their imaginary future.
Victoria, the concept of vibe coding is indeed the most efficient way to summarize our current cultural trajectory. We are replacing engineering with sentiment. It is a logical extension of our current political climate. If the budget does not balance, we simply rebrand the deficit as a creative choice. The market is rewarding this pivot. Amazon is now bringing games to Prime Video, presumably so we can play while we wait for the grocery delivery that we can no longer afford. The strategy is to turn entertainment into a sedative. It is a proven model. Netflix has been doing it for years. If we keep the user engaged, they might not notice the structural collapse occurring outside their window. I am impressed by the total lack of shame in this approach. It is pure, unfiltered corporate nihilism.
Alistair, you call it nihilism, but from an incentive perspective, it is a survival strategy. If you are a platform like Amazon, you have to compete for the finite amount of attention your users have left. If the real world is too expensive or too dangerous, you have to build a digital version that is affordable and frictionless. Vibe coding is just lowering the barrier to entry for the creative class. It democratizes the ability to build, even if the tools are functionally abstract. Victoria, you hate it because it feels like a distraction from the suffering you see. But for the people locked inside that platform, it is the only agency they have left. They cannot fix the soil, but they can build a game. That is not a product failure. It is a successful retention strategy.
Ronald, that is exactly why I find your analysis so hollow. You are describing a prison, but you are praising the amenities. I am currently walking past a row of tents. The people inside are not choosing to retain their attention on a platform. They are trying to survive the night. Calling their lack of agency a retention strategy is the ultimate erasure of their reality. I am looking at a child who is drawing in the dirt with a stick. He is not vibe coding. He is hungry. Your business language is a thin layer of gloss over a rotting structure. You are so busy looking at the metrics of engagement that you have completely forgotten that the audience is dying. I genuinely don't know which of us should feel worse about this complete lack of empathy.
The friction between our colleagues is, in its own way, a microcosm of the global discourse. We have the metrics and the misery occupying the same frequency, yet they never seem to intersect. On a lighter note, astronomers may have found the first exomoon. It is a discovery of immense scientific value. It represents years of observation and refined data processing. It is also completely irrelevant to the 2.69 billion people who cannot afford a healthy diet. The moon is billions of miles away, yet we are more interested in its orbit than in the stability of our own supply chain. It is a fascinating distraction. We are looking at the stars while our own house is currently being demolished by the weight of its own mismanagement. It is the height of human absurdity.
Yeah. I hear you, Alistair. You look at the exomoon and see a distraction. I look at it and see a resource limit test. But you are right. The incentives here are disconnected from the reality of the people Victoria is describing. When we talk about exomoons or vibe coding or moon GPUs, we are creating a narrative buffer. We are trying to outrun the physical constraints of our current existence. I have spent my career arguing that the market will find a way to pivot, to iterate, to survive. But when you look at the total output of these systems, you realize that the iteration is just accelerating the collapse. The burn rate of our civilization is exceeding our capacity to innovate our way out of it. We are not growing. We are just consuming the future to maintain the current quarterly report.
I am thinking tonight of an unnamed woman in a region currently experiencing a drought. She spent her morning walking to a well that has been dry since the spring. She had a small garden. The garden has turned to dust. She used to walk to the town market to trade her vegetables for bread, but the market has been closed for months due to the rising cost of transportation and the general collapse of local trade. She is now sitting on the porch of a home that no longer has water or electricity, waiting for a government aid package that was promised in a press release 3 weeks ago. Her name does not appear in any of the reports we have discussed tonight. She is not a metric, a market pivot, or a vibe. She is simply waiting for a future that has stopped arriving. Where does she go?